Coaches and consultants, you are high ticket, but what are you doing with your money? Do you know how to manage all this abundance and all of this wealth? Well, we got a special guest that's going to help us make sure we avoid some mistakes, but also get us on the right track. That's all coming up next. Welcome to the LVTV podcast, where we talk all things content, clients, cash flow for the content, for the profit and impact focused coaches and consultants. My name is LV. We got a very special guest. I don't even know how to introduce you because you wear so many different hats. But for the sake of time, I'm gonna let you introduce yourself. Well, first it's Nathan, Big Nate Diggity Dog. That's what I'm gonna call him here on the podcast. But we have Pastor Nathan. We want to say thank you for joining us. How should we how do I put the title per this conversation? Is it pastor? Is
Nathan.
it financier? How do we do this? I want to make sure that people know exactly how you land and how you bringing it.
Nathan is cool. I got a group actually that I work with, and every time I go to them, they say, "Oh, Money Nate is here." So,
hey, money making Nate. That's what we going with today, man. Nate, thank you so much. And again, you are a pastor, you are a husband, you are a father, you are an advisor. It's so many hats that you wear. So I just want to let the people know that you really are a gem and you come with a wealth of knowledge from different angles and different perspectives. So y'all in for a treat for today. So money making Nate, as we get into it, I always like to ask guests when they come on, when did the light bulb moment happen for you? So where were you at? What was going on in your life when you said, I need to get into this money system? I need to learn. I need to become an expert when it comes down to this paper, the dollar bills, y'all. What was that moment for you?
I was 11 years old, and I wanted to get a pair of sneakers. And, at the time, Jordan was the man. Everybody, we talking about, 1993. And, I guess they just won their first three-peat. And I just really wanted, I wanted an official Michael Jordan jersey and some Jordans.
Yeah.
Grew up in, housing projects in Newark, New Jersey. And we couldn't get the things that we wanted because we were quote unquote, on a fixed income, right? We were in a situation where we were depending upon, public assistance programming to make it happen. And at that moment, I realized that I didn't like being restricted. I didn't like someone else controlling how much money I could get, how much, I had access to, and what I could do. I just knew at 11 years old, this is not what I want to do. This is not how this is going. And so consequently, I decided, well, I need to get into the kind of work that, one, keeps me close to the money, right? And puts me in a position where I can help other people gain access to whatever that knowledge or information is going to be that would allow them to live without restriction as well. And that's for me. When I couldn't get those Jordans, I couldn't get that official jersey. It's so funny because I think maybe now I own one or two pair of Jordan sneakers, but I still don't have the jersey yet. But I think I just don't have the jersey because I just never bought it. But the point is that at that point I realized that I didn't want to live under that kind of restriction.
So when that moment happened, and I'm just curious, did you start a paper route? Did you grab a book to learn about finance? Were you watching stock market stuff? Because it's funny you bring this up because at that same time in my life, I was huge on sneakers. And it was the same thing. I'm doing whatever I can, shoveling snow to get me some fresh pair of kicks. Air Force Ones, Air Max, Jordans. Yes. I had an authentic college jersey, North Carolina, for Jerry Stackhouse to go with the powder blue to go with the powder blue Air Force Ones. So I'm with you. So what was the next step for you? Because I remember in middle school, that's when I started thinking stocks. I was the only kid in there looking at the newspaper, looking at the GM stock, right? Like I knew what I was doing. But for you, what was that next step?
Next step was, I really felt like I'm an action person. I don't do, if I strategize, once I feel I'm content with the strategy. There has to be execution.
Love it.
Because there are a lot of people who strategize and strategize and strategize, but they never execute.
Mm.
So at that point, I had an uncle who lived in, different side of town, different.
Mhm.
So I would go to his house on the weekends and cut his grass, wash his cars, and then
Mm.
cut the grass of his neighbors. And so that, weekend I would leave $250, and that was every weekend.
Yes.
And from there, I then, because it wasn't just about the Jordans, wasn't just about the official jersey. I also wanted to help my mom. I wanted to contribute to my home. I wanted to relieve her of the burden of, how am I going to wash his clothes? Because, we at that time, we didn't have, where we lived, we didn't have washer and dryer in our house. We had to go to the laundromat with that cart, you
Yep.
put all your laundry in and you push it. That's what we had to do. And it cost money to go and do that. So I wanted to relieve my mom of the burden of certain things so that, she could do for the others. It was just my brother and I, but my mother adopted three other children. So she raised five of us
Mm.
in a home, and it was just her.
Oh wow.
And so life was, different. So I needed to, like, let me not be a burden on her while she handles the other four children. Let me even help where I
Mm.
can. And so that $250 every week turned out to be $1,000 a month in our home, and that made a big difference.
Man, trust me, I know she was happy. she,
Yes.
hey, but you going to see your uncle? All right. See you on Sunday night before you get ready for school. So let's dive into it. We had a conversation not too long ago, and it just really intrigued me. How you position some of the things that you have coming up, and you can disclose here if you like. If not, that's fine. And you were saying how many times coaches and consultants who bring in these large sums of money because they're high ticket really don't manage those funds correctly. And it made me think like, wow, because as soon as you start calculating 20, 30,000 a month, 50,000 a month, you start thinking of how much you can spend on you and as little as you possibly can on your business. But there's so many moving pieces and parts to it all, being an entrepreneur, being a coach and a consultant. So I want to hear from you. What are a couple of things that you see that coaches and consultants who are bringing in this type of money, what are some of the mistakes that they're making, or what's some of the blind spots that they're not paying attention to when they're getting these large sums of money, or pretty much an annual income in 30 days?
So I would say that there are a number of things that any coach or consultant needs to do, not just to manage, but also to grow.
Mm.
Um, and so when we talk about coaching and consulting, we're talking about the type of business that is considered by lending institutions to be a brain trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything is riding on, that coach or consultant,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the challenge with that is, um, they don't have an actual tangible product. It's more
Mm-hmm.
of a service, and service-based businesses are locked within the service provider.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes lending institutions will not extend resources to those kinds of businesses, because if something happens to that person who carries all this information in their brain, now our funds we've lent you could potentially be lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not be paid back. That becomes an issue from a business perspective. So there are many coaches and consultants who have not created other products or resources for people to gain access and to scale and grow their business. So digital content is critical,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doing these sessions, but then knowing how to take that digital, because digital content is an unending inventory.
Right. Right.
If you just take the content in your head and dump it every month, what kind of streams of revenue do you now create for your coaching and consulting business, that now you get to cherry pick who you consult and coach with?
Mm.
I don't have to coach these particular people or do these sessions or do this way, because what I'm doing on the digital content front has created so much revenue and generated so much in my business that I can choose who I want to coach.
Mm-hmm.
I can now start saying, if you don't make $1 million a year, I'm not coaching you.
Mm.
Versus, I don't care what you make, I'm coaching any and everybody, right?
Taking that credit card.
I'm taking any and everybody. Now you can start doing that. Now here's the thing about scaling that. Now you create another stream of income where you now certify and develop your own coaching, coaching training product, where you now duplicate yourself, and the people you now no longer want to coach, you have developed coaches for them.
Yes.
And now you can coach who you want.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so just opening that paradigm of being able to think beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the second thing I would say. When we talk about that's growing, that's scaling, that's
right.
taking to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Because so the second thing is reinvesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many people in business do not, especially even coaches and consultants, don't reinvest resources for scaling and growing.
Right, right.
I've never had to dip into my personal funds to scale and grow my business. I've always gone into the profits of the business to grow it and scale it.
Right.
So let's look at it this way. When I talk to clients as an accountant, I service them and provide the services to them. When I'm sitting in strategy sessions with them, one of the things they'll say is, I'm going to go get such and such a technology. I'm going to get this piece of equipment. I'm going to get that, right? Mm-hmm. And I asked them, okay, well, about 6 months ago, you bought this equipment. Mm-hmm. What has that equipment brought you in resources?
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. How has it translated, whether directly or indirectly, to the increase of revenue in your business? Mm-hmm. Because everything you purchase should give you a return.
Yes.
Of some sort.
Yes.
Whether directly or indirectly. So what I'll ask them is, well, if you buy that piece of equipment, how is that strengthening your infrastructure? So oftentimes we'll buy a whole lot of equipment and a lot of toys and gadgets, and then we're complaining or stressed out because we don't have enough support. So knowing the balance between getting this new equipment I need to get, right? Versus, hey, I just bought some new stuff 3-6 months ago. I need to strengthen my infrastructure.
Yeah.
So maybe I need to take those resources and set them aside and save towards getting a virtual assistant, or towards getting a graphics person, or getting someone to edit my content now, right? Instead of me sitting up hours upon hours trying to edit my own content. How can I use my time to keep growing my bottom line? That's how we have to think. And there's a difference between being a solopreneur and an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, but solopreneurship is how most coaches and consultants have functioned. They don't function typically as entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, you are looking to strengthen your infrastructure, expand by adding the people with the talents and skill sets to do what you should not be doing, so that you can take your business to the next level. Yeah. And these are all things that I've learned, I've taught, and I've shared out of my own experience of 19 years, soon to be 20 years in business. And these are the things I didn't do, right? That hurt my business. So, those would be the top things that I would say that, coaches and consultants need to be thinking about to go to the next level in their business.
Man, you said a lot there. Just the term infrastructure, just the idea of putting funds aside to buy your time back to grow the bottom line. You just said a lot, and I pray that people go back and rewind and listen to it again or watch it again to really soak in what you just said, because you just gave some game. Because again, so many times people get into this coaching and consulting space as a solopreneur and not as an entrepreneur to build systems around them to have employees and resources, right? There's nothing wrong with getting a nice camera. You just got to have somebody to man it,
That's right.
Before you buy the next camera and the next lens and the next lighting kit and whatnot. So that's really, really good. So I want to now flip it on the other side. What are some of the things that you see some of the top coaches and consultants doing well with their money as far as managing it and being able to scale?
So I talked to you the other day. We had a
Mm-hmm.
great conversation about this, and I'm gonna drop this. I would not typically do this, but I'm gonna do this here
I
in this space.
appreciate it.
I think it's gonna be great. A lot of coaches and consultants are restricted to engaging and working with people who, in their mind, these people have the resources, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They can pay for this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about the people who they may not have the resources up front? It may be challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
All different types of challenges. And so I kind of, through my business, I've developed like multiple packages and ways to support people. But the top consultants that I've had the privilege of getting to know, connect with, build relation with, or just watch, have um, looked into other options that increase their revenue.
Mm-hmm.
For example, there are financing companies out there for coaching products.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have a high ticket package, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you're able to produce the quantity, you're able to produce the sales necessary, they will underwrite some of this stuff. So now you have a place where people can connect to get financing for your coaching program, or not just coaching, but consulting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's say if a client wants to consult with you and it's going to be a high ticket consultation, they can secure the financing. You can be compensated up front to provide the service. And now that just took your business from what to what? Because if you were relying upon the demographic and what people can pay in that demographic, you now are held hostage to that.
Right.
Right? You're pigeonholed to that.
Mm-hmm.
But if there are other options for them to pay for your service, i.e. a financing situation,
Mm-hmm.
that increases your business and its profitability.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now you've been charging $3,000 for a program, you could probably charge 8, 9, 10 because there are other options now.
Yeah. Man, that's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a game changer. So I'm going to let you keep going, but I just had to interject. Game changer alert.
But I think that's another way. I don't think people realize that even exists,
Yeah.
It's out there, and it can improve your coaching and consulting work and alleviate the headache of you chasing people down for money, for monthly payments, or and we have we have various systems that do various things, but people run into jams, they run into situations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this helps us to say, hey, you don't have to run into a situation with me. You may run into it on another end, but here we're good.
We good. You gonna get this work, but you might have to work with somebody else later
Yes.
on down the line. So definitely opening up to financing or providing those services for people who may not be able to drop, that high ticket amount on their credit card up front, or however they decide to pay. What else? How are you seeing some of the top coaches and consultants do when it comes down to either growing, right, bringing in the bag, or even managing the bag?
Mm-hmm. So, from a management perspective, in terms of resources, again, looking at how do I identifying the best talent, investing in that talent, or taking someone within the infrastructure and helping them to fine tune and develop their skills so they're a greater asset to the organization. We don't see a lot of that happening because people have the fear that people will leave them.
Yeah.
Right. So you take the example of like Apple, Google, companies like that who say, look, whether you went to college or not, we have our own training system within this structure to equip you with the skills to be an asset to us. Now, I think they asked for a certain number of years of commitment,
Sure.
um, but which we could rightfully do in our own businesses if we're
Mm-hmm.
going to invest in someone,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But investing in the people within your infrastructure who have the capacity, um, or just like I need to go and grab the right people to build this where I need to take it where I need to take it. I've seen the best coaches that I know of do that,
Mm-hmm.
um, and be strategic about who they bring on their team, when, what skill set, where their experience needs to be, and how that adds value to where they're taking their organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I like that. I like that. I like that. Train them up in your own ecosystem, not look for them to already come with a biased perspective, maybe, right? And could possibly, hurt from there. And I'll pause there because I feel like I don't want you to give away too much, and we don't want to make this too long of a conversation. We have to do a part 2. So if you could share one golden nugget with coaches and consultants that's listening to this podcast, that made it this far, what would that be?
I would tell them to think in years,
Mm,
uh, live in months, and work in days.
okay.
Um, and what I mean by that is you have to be thinking in years in order to have sustainability and longevity
Mm-hmm.
in any business. You can't be thinking month to month, day to day, week to week.
Okay.
You're going to lose like that.
Okay.
Right now, there's a lot of conversation around the metaverse
Mm-hmm.
things, right? All of
Yeah.
this it's like the internet is breaking now with, they're talking about a multi-trillion-dollar industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
All this is happening. If I were any of the coaches or consultants, and I am one, I'm thinking about how does my business fit into the metaverse
Mm-hmm.
concept?
Mm.
Is that even possible?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that doable? Can we make that happen? How do we make that happen? What does that look
Mm.
like? Is that something I should be connected to? See, you have to be thinking in that way. And in your mind, there's no connection, but maybe there is.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody gonna figure it
Because
out.
somebody will, and people in that space who are going to be engaging in that space, some way or another, coaching and consulting can impact that industry. How?
Mm.
That's the question that every entrepreneur has to answer. Every coach or consultant rather has to answer how.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if not, how do I get close to it? Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that whether you're a coach or consultant or any other kind of business, you have to be thinking in that way, um, if you're going to have longevity and be successful. So think in years.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
I
your
love it.
10-year plan? What's your 20-year plan? What is your business going to look like in 20 years?
Mm.
Who's going to be, who's going to be working within your infrastructure? Will you be phasing yourself out? Will you sell your business in 20 years? Will you build it large enough to sell? I mean, these are things you have to build with the end in mind.
Yeah.
What's the end look like?
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that. I like that. That's a good way to leave off on the show. So, money making Nate, how can people get in contact with you? They've heard you so far here on the podcast. They're like, okay, I got to connect with this guy. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, the best way to connect with me would be, you can connect with me on social media. On all the social media platforms, I am Dr. Nathan Culver. So anywhere you go, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, it's Dr. Nathan Culver. And outside of that, you can go to my business. You can check out Culver Consulting Firm, where we do all things money and business, financial literacy education. We train, we coach entrepreneurs in the financial side of their business, and we're getting ready to launch a product that's coming in January, a platform that's coming in January that I think will be great. Entrepreneurs get a lot of information about marketing, branding, those things, but most of them do not have a financial strategist that's helping them to develop the blueprint
Mm-hmm.
for where their business will go financially. So we created something, and our book is coming out that's going to be coupled with that I think will add great value to them.
Man, I love it. Man, if y'all don't follow this man, you're sleeping under a rock. Get from under the rock, get out of the rain, and let's really make sure we have a well-rounded coaching and consulting business, right?
Yes.
Not just a hustle, but a business. I'm not
Yes.
a businessman. I'm a business man. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening and tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast, rate and review. I love reading them, really, and I think maybe we'll start reading those here on the podcast live. So make sure you leave that. Visit the lvtvpodcast.com. And with that said, everything that you need to know about Money Making Nate will be down in the show notes. So thank you guys for listening or watching. And Nate, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. All right.
Man, you about to make a black man blush with all this good information. I'm like, man, we about to be billionaires.